let's wrap this thing up this week talking baseball, because the Giants went ahead and made their managerial hire. So we're gonna talk. That giant exhale coming from Steven means that we are talking about the hiring of Gabe Kapler by the Giants. And there's a lot to unpack here.
There is.
That will get into some of the larger social issues even attached to Kapler. But let's start off with the baseball. This is a guy who's had 2 major second half collapses as a manager with the Philadelphia Phillies. Little time as a farm director with the Dodgers, which I guess was more about minor league instruction perhaps. I don't really know how hands-on he was in a Dodger organization that felt very hands-on on what they wanted, so he might have just been sort of executing what was given to him. Then these 2 years as manager where things fall apart in 2 straight second halves. And maybe you're saying the Giants, well, I don't know if they're trying to compete next year. We heard that about this year. And then we're out there competing late into the season because you just never know. When it does come time for them to be aiming for a playoff spot from the get-go rather than, oh, hey, well, we're kind of in it. Let's give it a shot. When they are beginning that path of, okay, we're going to compete this year, that's going to linger in the back of my mind, his 2 second half collapses. As a Giants fan, you just kind of have to hope it wasn't all on him, but there's a lot of things that point to him.
There is, and a lot of things that point to his coaching decisions he made while in Philadelphia with pitching changes and being a little bit too reliant on the spreadsheets, so to speak. And, there's a lot of... On Twitter last week, there was so much after the announcement of this hire and the ensuing press conference and how it was handled and what was talked about. But one of the things was he's just a yes guy for the upstairs. And I have family in New Jersey. My uncle is a huge Phillies fan.
Okay.
He grew up there on the East Coast in New England, and they live 30 miles from Philadelphia, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he texted me right away. He's like, so, what are your thoughts? And I was like, I'm not on board.
Yeah.
But after the press conference, and we can get into it more, I'm a little bit more on board with it. Just hearing him speak and just hearing how they sat and took every shot that was fired.
Okay.
But he, my uncle was talking about just decisions he was making on the field and how he was mismanaging the roster and how he's mismanaging the lineup and just how things just weren't good. And Philadelphia it's a tough sports place to be.
Absolutely.
Tough to take criticism because they don't pull back any punches.
No.
Hello, Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, they'll boo Santa Claus.
Yeah, in fact, they'll steal his sled if there's opportunities in there. But yeah, so, baseball side, oh gosh, hearing him talk about the culture of the clubhouse and what he wants to do as far as reaching out to Buster Posey and having conversations with the veterans on the team. He's retained Ron Wotus to be the third base coach, which I really liked, and I think that will be big inside the clubhouse. And Wotus has been around the Giants for decades. It's like 30 years, I think, now. He can help Kapler grow. He can help him grow from the baseball player, which what he looked like in Philly. He just looked like still the baseball player. I think he can help him grow into a clubhouse leader from the skipper side.
That's always a big transition. I'm hearing it right now about, the Cubs bringing on Ross, their former catcher, as a manager, and all the things I hear from the Cubs media and their fans about him are all the things that were said about Mike Matheny as a manager. I'm like, okay, that's leader, the catcher. He basically was a coach of okay.
It's a lot different when you get in that hot seat.
It's a little different when you're in charge of it all from the top. Exactly. I know that transitioning from player manager to just manager for the Admirals P.J. Phillips, involves a transition in thought process and evaluation. Gabe Kapler, maybe he didn't transition enough into that as the Phillies manager. He was still thinking like a player too much. Don't know. What was it that got you more on board? Was it just the fact that he is going to reach out to the veterans, have this conversation, the culture? What was it that kind of made you say, okay, I'm going to give him a go?
When you have received criticism and scrutiny for mistakes that you've made, you don't come in brash.
Right.
You don't come in saying, this is how I'm going to do things. It's, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to find out. Because he knows he's messed up in Philly.
Okay.
And I think anytime you're making a move, you're making a career move, you want to consult people. You want to ask their advice, ask their opinions, whether they've even really been in it or not. Maybe you ask more life questions. Maybe you want to find out information to improve yourself.
Yeah.
And to me, it sounds like he wants to improve and he wants to be better. Now, I mean, only time is going to tell. And only time is going to tell how him being hired affects roster moves now. Guys that are now free agents. We just saw Will Smith leave to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Madison Bumgarner's still sitting there.
Yeah.
And is, I was reading something somewhere on Twitter. How would Bumgarner react to Kapler coming and pulling him after 5 1/3 because he's at 75 pitches because the numbers say so?
Yeah.
That would be probably, and this person was said joking, that would probably be the first ever fight between starting pitcher and skipper of a Major League Baseball team on the field.
Yeah.
So, only time's going to tell. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic just by him just sitting there and taking it.
Gotcha.
And that to me says something more about someone's character than what I've read through past stories and what things I wasn't there to witness. I witnessed him sit there and just take it on the chin.
He had a couple of things he needed to have an act of contrition for.
Yes.
On-field managerial boo-boos, along with, as a farm director, handling of some controversies involving abuse allegations to some Dodgers minor league players. He had to kind of explain his handling of that as well.
He did. And Farhan Zaidi was also a part of the organization when all this was going down. And this... everybody in the Bay Area sports media was talking all last week how just awkward this press conference was. And I watched it twice.
Okay.
Ann Killian, love her work.
Yeah.
She will never pull a punch on anything, but especially when it comes to women and women's issues. She blocked me on Twitter a long time ago, but that's a
No
long
way.
story.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I still love Ann Killian. Love you, Ann. And I still read your work online, although I don't know when to look for it because I can't see your tweets. But she right away asked about that.
Yeah.
And then follow up with, Farhan, did this come up in your interview process with the Giants? To show if the Giants are culpable in trying to hide anything.
Yeah.
And then he said, I don't believe it did.
Okay.
And so then they went there, and the next two questions, I forget her name, but she reports for the AP, and then Susan Slusser.
Okay.
So it's like just women right off the bat, which the Giants are smart. That was done on purpose.
Yeah, good.
And they sat there and said, mistakes were made.
Yeah.
We could have talked to more people, like I was mentioning earlier. And when he said, because this is how the press conference started. And then after saying, I should have asked more questions and talked and got more advice because I didn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
Now what came out too from Farhan was that Major League Baseball did an investigation and decided that the police were not needed to be contacted, like the law enforcement. Like this is inside. This is not outside of breaking the law.
And I think that's what the controversy boiled down to, was that the Dodgers and baseball trying to handle it internally versus getting authorities involved, which is tough when charges aren't pressed.
It is, and it's also tough when you've got somebody like Gabe Kapler, who this is in 2015. I mean, what's exactly his role in their farm system? Like, what was he doing? Is he just a coach? Is he just there to help talent, like, evaluate?
Right, exactly.
What is he doing? Like, and I can't imagine being in that kind of position. And I think both of them kind of showing and saying, like, actually saying that they did not handle it the right way. And they did make mistakes. And in hindsight, they learned a lot from that. And they even actually said that they've reached out currently during this interview process to talk to women's groups and get advice on how to handle things from their positions now moving forward. Like, if something of that were to come up, what do you do? I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'll say the first thing I'm probably doing is I'm probably calling the cops.
Gotcha, yeah.
Because if there's any allegations of something like that, I might have to try to protect my player, but she was 17. I also have to protect her. And so the whole thing was horrible.
Yeah.
And just how lack of information, how, in fact, this story actually didn't even break until this year in February.
Right.
which should...
It took place in 2015?
2015.
Right. So we're just a year outside of our Me Too changes to our world.
Yes, yes. So it's a lot has changed just in the climate and in society since 2015, which, as baseball fans out there want to point out, 2014 was oh so long ago. 2015, as far as the Me Too movement goes, is also, that's a long time ago compared to what has happened since. I mentioned Will Smith. Where's Mad Bum going to go? And there's the PR hit.
Right.
Outside of baseball.
That's what had to be addressed. Yeah.
It did. And all over Twitter, if you look back, Charles Johnson, with him giving contributions, political contributions to a known racist in the South, which Charles Johnson's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Things get moved. He might not even know that he did that, and he's old.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Then you go into what happened with the Bears. Larry and Pam going through what they went through, and then now with the Greg Kapler hire, and women Giants fans out there are up in arms. Which, okay, you have every right to be, because this does not look good. Me being a little bit more optimistic about it, that's just my opinion. I just want to see how things are going to play out and move forward. And as far as the organization goes, and seeing a lot on Twitter about how this organization doesn't respect women, to me, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's maybe going a bit
far.
Yeah.
But that is what's kind of circulating out there in the backlash of this Kapler hire. It's just to them and the people that I've spoken to, it just seems like one thing after another. Now, I know the Bears. I have a pretty decent relationship with Pam, and we have communicated a lot in the past, and I don't think she would not do what she does for that organization if they had a negative outlook towards women. She just wouldn't. She's not that person. I also know another C-level executive who is a woman, very high up in the Giants organization. Her and I have had conversations about the character of the team, or the organization, like the character of the front office, what they try to do, and how they try to conduct their business and have a family atmosphere. Yeah. And you've seen it. You've seen how they bring old players back. You've seen how they give older players that have been out of the game for a long time new positions. Yeah. I mean, they will cover your medical if you've ever played for the Giants and you come back in a special assistant role. And that's what they call them, a special assistant or a special advisor. They just create a job for you because you're in the family. Yeah. And just to hear that kind of backlash about, how it seems today, one thing after another, we don't really know what happened in LA. Yeah. And I'm not making any excuses. They already came out and said that they did not handle it the right way. Yeah. That's, those are their words. I'm not making any excuses for them. Yeah. But I think to slam the San Francisco organization on something that didn't even happen here, it's just a bit much.
Yeah, we, had the feeling that this hire was brewing as, things had been, really connected, those two, Kapler and Zaidi, for a while. And so there was a comfort level between them that I think eventually led to this hire being made. So you've got that controversy involving the minor league players. You've got his issues with second half collapses. Throw in his odd blog posts that folks are going to go back to involving his recommendations on getting proper sunlight to all of your body, what to use while masturbating.
Oh, wow.
You're not hip to this part?
No.
Okay. Oh, boy. Go back to, and this was the part that I kind of got tired of after a while.
Okay.
It was like, okay, we're going back to his old blog where he hasn't written anything in. It's like 15 or 16 either. It's like, can we talk about the second half collapses? Like, I kept coming back to that versus, his thoughts on diet and blog posts. And, he's a bit, you see his physique and the way he puts a lot of shirtless photos out there and, the way he takes care of himself. He was, he's a bit extreme in some of his theories on how to take care of that. So Google that one.
Taking notes now. Google shirtless Kapler. I gotta spell Kapler right.
Yeah, it's about his blog involving coconut oil and
I'm a fan of coconut oil.
Yeah.
And cooking.
Yeah, not so much that, but and getting sunlight on all your body and tanning the testicles and stuff like
wow.
that
Family
really
show, Tim.
Yeah, that got, well, that's why I'm using these particular words. That just was its whole other, and see, you weren't even hip to that part.
Not
It's
even
yeah,
at all. Yeah, I like this.
So that's the thing. There was so much to this hire that was risky that I really hope Zaidi feels this extreme level of comfort with Kapler, that this is going to work out. This is a lot of risk, a lot of putting himself out there in year 2 that his regime is going to ride on. This is his first managerial hire, and it better be right. Kapler already has to be the guy to follow up a legend, which is you don't want to be. You don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. You're going to be the guy that follows the guy that followed the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot tougher. There is a lot riding on this hire from a PR and baseball success standpoint, and Zaidi has put his neck out there with it.
He has, and there's also speculation, since all of this has gone down, that with knowing about Zaidi's involvement in LA and in that situation, and the Giants really not knowing about it, obviously not knowing about it, otherwise, I mean, that had to have would come up. I mean, that's not, that after the PR hits from the Charles Johnson thing, and there's no way in going into hiring Zaidi, that's not something that they would circle back to and try to really delve into during the hiring process. Yeah. So with that, coupled with this controversial Kapler hire, and if this season doesn't go even decently well as far as, moving around prospects, calling people up, checking things out, could they both go?
It won't be this year.
No, well, not this year, but
the clock will start ticking afterwards.
Very fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you think that
this is the buffer year. This is the honeymoon.
Yes.
And then everything changes.
You think people were quick to want to get John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan out? This will be even faster. Which
there was
quite a
reason to preach patience there, and we're seeing it. So, it's a big risk. And, depending on what their goal is for this season, will determine on whether or not it was worth it. As you noted, reliever Will Smith signs a 3-year deal with the Braves. He was going to take that 1-year tender to avoid free agency, but about 40 minutes before he signed that, does come to the agreement with the Braves. Giants will get a draft pick sandwiched somewhere in the high 30s, most likely, coming back from that. Being that the Braves were the team signing. There's this whole formula involving...
It's weird.
If you are in the luxury tax, if you're a revenue-sharing receiving team, how much the guy signs for, that sort of stuff that affects whether or not it's your second highest pick, your 5th highest pick, that'll fall in there somewhere. I'm assuming it's at worst near the second round for the Giants.
Yeah,
that's what I'm expecting. And you can still find gold there.
Absolutely. And the baseball draft is nothing like NFL or the NBA. Like, you can find gold in the 17th round.
Yeah. So the other baseball controversy going out...
Can I?
Yes.
For the logo part of this controversy, the A's drums,
is that what you're bringing in?
Ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have current A's pitcher Mike Fiers being one who's kind of putting his neck out on the line here, too, saying, hey, look, when I was in the Astros... 2017, we stole signs with video cameras.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know Belichick worked in Houston.
I know, right? And so, what's funny, Boston, the Red Sox, to get busted on it for using Apple Watches to steal things. And that's where the league is trying to put a cutoff. There's a lot of technology available. They're trying to put a limit on that. And we talked about that a little bit last time. It is the cameras. You're standing at second. You kind of get an idea what... For going on second side, third side, if they're rotating, you think you can catch a guy's tip pitch, you think you can steal signs.
Tap your leg or your knee.
In, say, a more organic way.
Yeah.
Fine. That's part of the gig.
Yeah, that's gamesmanship.
When you've got the cameras involved and using technology that feels like a leg up, and, the defenders of the Houston Astros who are getting busted on this right now, you say, oh, well, everybody does it. Everybody does it. Okay, everybody speeds on the freeway too. Usually, don't get caught. Have your registration current.
Yeah.
Don't get caught. You know what I'm saying? Astros got caught.
Yeah, big time.
You could talk about the everybody does it stuff. Okay, well, A, is everybody doing it with cameras? I get everybody's trying to steal signs in other ways. I do it with cameras and binoculars and lights and things like that. There's a difference in there. There's a line in that, and now we're getting that there was an email. The Athletic got a hold of this email acquired from the Astros front office. Speaking of a baseball front office dealing with a new world post Me Too, handling it extremely cumbersomely, way worse than the Giants could ever handle something with their investor Wall Street hedge fund bro, because that's what their front office is filled with, a bunch of spreadsheet hedge fund Wall Street experience guys, a lot of wolves of Wall Street in that front office right now.
A lot of wolves of technology, it sounds like, too.
That, too. In that front office, and there's definitely some toxic masculinity amongst that group of line of work. And so we see it spill and mix that with some baseball locker room culture. Well, that's a toxic combo for sure.
Yeah.
And so they've had that one controversy going into the World Series. Now we find this with them. An email from 2017 about stealing signs, and the Athletics report didn't identify that Astros executive who sent this email out, and it made some scouts uncomfortable. Some scouts were like, okay, yeah, I'm on board. Others were uncomfortable with it. So you had kind of a split going on there. But we've learned that the person who it is, Kevin Goldstein, is the person who sent out the message.
He just sounds guilty.
Kevin Goldstein, this excerpt from the email via The Athletic, it said, one thing in specific we're looking for is picking up signs coming out of the dugout. What we're looking for is how much we can see, how we would log things if we need cameras / binoculars, etc. So go to the game, see what you can do, and report back your findings. Goldstein's name might be familiar to baseball fans because he used to work at Baseball Prospectus. This is a researcher / journalist. Before joining the Astros office in 2012 as pro scouting coordinator, Goldstein was a national writer for BP, specializing in minor league scouting and player development. He also wrote for ESPN, Baseball America, and very much a popular Twitter follow out there. And this is who's getting busted. Not a good look.
No, not a good look at all. So my drums going into this for a local tie-in, there are people, mostly fans probably, around the Astros that are claiming the drum section in Oakland is helping tip pitches. It was just something very, very, very funny.
Wow.
And I thought going into something like this, it would be kind of just a funny thing to have my own little drums in here.
That feels like a reach, man.
Oh, such a reach. So I gotta give just a quick.
Especially if you know the dude's drumming out there.
Oh yeah. So speaking of the guys that are out there, my buddy Brian.
You'd also think the A's would hit better if that were the case. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, 97 wins.
Yeah.
My buddy Brian on Twitter, he's Sandlot408. So he is like one of the #1 fans out there. Like he's the pin guy. If anybody out there has ever seen the pin guy, it's my buddy Brian. And so he was roasting people for bringing this up. They showed a guy out there with a tuba. What sign's he tipping? And it's like there's all kinds of fun that's been going on A's Twitter this morning with this. So that's why I brought it up. The whole drumming, my drumming that probably irritated everybody out there listening.
Wow. So that's a huge reach right there.
Huge reach. Now, what's going on with the Astros? That's not a reach at all. Like this is an actual fact of them cheating.
Here's the last Baseball Perspective post from Goldstein. He says, I loved writing here, but I was never a writer. I never enjoyed the actual process of writing. It was always a chore for me. I loved gathering information. I loved talking to scouts and agents and various front office officials and trying to tell the readers everything I learned. Writing was the medium I was stuck with, so here I am. I've always felt bad for my editors, scuffling to make my words something decipherable. So that clears us journalists of any stain that could be coming from him.
That is, ladies and gentlemen, Exhibit A. This is exactly what somebody who wants to gather information like sign stealing and decipher what it means.
Yeah.
Like, he was born for that.
Yeah.
And now he'll probably get fired for it.
Yes. I love talking to scouts and agents and various front office officials and trying to tell the readers everything I learned. Yeah, he likes
He likes telling.
He likes
Gathering
telling on
information.
what he learned. So the Astros, it's funny. Here comes you stuck up for your A's fan friends and folks out there. Here's Cardinals fan Tim resurfacing for a second because I may have noted it on the last episode. The Cardinals director of scouting who replaced Jeff Lunhow, now the GM with the Astros, he hacked into the Astros system to see if the Astros were still using proprietary scouting information that should have belonged to the Cardinals. And the judge, when they sentenced Chris Correa to 4 years in federal prison, said that's like, breaking into your neighbor's house to see if they stole your stuff.
Yeah.
I am starting to believe Chris Correa a little bit that maybe the Astros had some of the Cardinals stuff.
Yeah.
I get it was the wrong, and he fully admits, yes, in his sentencing, shouldn't have gone about it this way. This was wrong of me. It was wrong what I did. My motives haven't changed. He's sticking by that end of his story, and now it's starting to gain a little validity. Because at first I was like, well, no, I think this guy was. That sounds like something you'd say if you were trying to defend yourself. I didn't know that this was some of those excuses people give in hindsight.
You see what had happened.
Yes, exactly. Now it's starting to gain a little validity to me that he hacked into that to see if they were still using some of the Cardinals stuff, even if that's a terrible way to go about it, because of moves like this, because they knew how Lunhow thought and operated and what he would try to create in Houston, what that would look like, how his method of operations tends to be. So I think Houston, you can't strip any titles.
No.
But draft pick losses, major fines, I think are coming. And Darvish talked about the former Dodger pitcher at the time, now with the Cubs, who got knocked around by the Astros in the World Series when they played each other. Talked about the experience. He's like, I needed to go through that. I don't regret what happened at all. It made me a better pitcher in the long run. But when Astros players told me I was tipping my pitches, we went back and looked at the video and didn't find a thing. I said it's something about the way I was bringing my hands together and separating. It's like we didn't see anything. Himself, Chase Utley, Dodgers video coordinator, people are all looking at that game and just couldn't find what the Astros were talking about. There's times where it's a 2-game set with the Cardinals this year for the Astros in St. Louis. And the Cardinals hired Jeff Albert, the Astros' former assistant hitting instructor, to be their hitting coach. Because you watch the Astros, like, man, their approach, the way they go get the ball, this homegrown lineup, Altuve will just flick anything outside of the zone for a hit. Their approach of knowing the strike zone, 2-strike hitting, all that was some of my justification and reasons for, we should take their hitting coaches. Now I'm wondering how valid that was. Is it their approach? Is it their skill level? Is it their hitting coach? Is it their analysis? Or do they know when a fastball is coming?
So when Darvish and the Dodgers were going through tape, they didn't see the guy with a camera sitting off to the side with the trench coat and the glasses and the fedora pulled down low. Because that's just what I imagine. I imagine...
Then they might confuse him with that guy who held the radar gun for years at Dodger Stadium.
That's true. or just a lot of weirdos in LA. But that's just what I'm envisioning. I'm envisioning like some guy like discreetly sitting in a crowd in like section 149 behind the A's drums, and you're sitting there staring, everything going crazy around you, and you're taking notes.
Yeah,
and you've got a video camera.
You got the camera going, live periscoping into the dugout. So I gotta say, regarding the two controversial things going on in baseball right now, Giants are going to get a 1-year honeymoon on this to really enact their process, especially since fans don't think that, or a lot of folks don't think they're aiming to be a playoff team this year. But when that time comes again, and we're seeing things turn around real fast in baseball, Cincinnati Reds are kind of turning around quickly. I think the Toronto Blue Jays can turn around kind of quickly. We're seeing the Padres start to turn around. We're seeing the Twins turn around. That long rebuild of baseball isn't what it used to be. It doesn't need to be there anymore. Giants in 2 seasons should be able to compete again if they do things right. And right there, that's where things are really going to be heavily magnified. The spotlight will hit Gabe, Kapler, and Zaidi pretty hard as a combo now at that point.
It will be. There's young talent to be brought up and to be showcased this season for the Giants.
Yeah.
It's there. How they handle it and how they do it is going to be the big question mark. And it'll be interesting to see even who goes into spring training with the Major League Club, who makes it out of spring training, and who is there day one come April. And, yeah, it's just, I'm optimistic, just the fan side of me.
Yeah.
The other side of me is kind of like, what are you doing? Really, what are you doing?
Yeah. When they could have, I guess he's thinking, you know what? I already conceded a PR boost in year 1. I didn't sell the big guns. I maybe moved Drew Pomeranz and Melanson and got some of those off the books and things like that. Got a nice young second baseman back from Milwaukee. Sort of played it even because he knew that would be a PR blow up in his face. Hey, we're in it. It's Bochy's last year. You're not going to sell off our big lefties, So I think he made that PR hold back there, and I was like, okay, I conceded that one. I'm going with my guy, my thing here in year 2.
Yeah, I don't know that the decisions made at last year's trade deadline bought him enough equity for something like this.
Gotcha.
It was always said that he has autonomy to do what he wants. And this is the first sign of that autonomy.
Here it is, yeah.
And it's right here. And so, yeah, I mean, it's his second year. It's Kapler's first year. We'll see what the team looks like. Fans, I think, should just wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah.
At least the All-Star break. Because after the All-Star break, chances are it's not going to be very good. They can be great. Kapler.
That's what seems to happen with him. For the other controversy, I gotta see the Astros lose draft picks and get a major fine.
Yeah.
I need a couple picks. I need the international pool money to drop. I do need them to get slapped fairly hard, at least Spygate.
Yeah.
Level.
Yeah. If not more.
Yeah.
Because this is taking gamesmanship and what has happened in the game for a century to a whole nother level just because of where we're at in today's world and today's technology, and you're just taking advantage of things that you hope most other teams are on the up and up with.
Yeah.
Now, if it comes out that more teams are doing this, that could be a problem.
Camera
for
style,
Major League Baseball.
then it's different. So we each have, as we wrap up the Blitz, we each have the Niners defeating the Packers due to their defense and how the Packers' defense is kind of weak. We each have the Raiders doing enough to beat the Jets on the road, being that they're playing the Jets.
Yeah, it's East Coast time.
Yeah.
And it's still the Jets.
Right, exactly. To wrap up, we had a longer segment on this last week, but it's a shorter segment this week because it wasn't the best news for the local high school football teams going through. American Canyon did lose to Hayward this past weekend, unfortunately. Had that loss, a 29-13 loss, knocking them out of the postseason. So one team down of our peripheral, members of the area, but Benicia High does continue on. They defeated El Cerrito 34-13. They'll take on Rancho Catate next. That's coming up on the 23rd. Coming up this weekend, 7 p.m. game against Rancho Catate. I'm assuming that one at home as well. Catate's 8-3, Benicia's 10-1. You think Benicia would be hosting that one? That should be official here soon if it's not. So we're down to 1, but best of luck to the Benicia Panthers moving forward. Final thoughts here on this Blitz, Stephen Babb?
Cheaters never prosper.
Yeah.
But as in sports, if you ain't cheating, you ain't cheating.
Kind of somewhere in between, huh? That'll do it for this episode of the Blitz. Wednesday night, 7:30 here on OzCat Radio. We will have coverage of Cal Maritime basketball taking on the Menlo Oaks. So that'll be right here on the OzCat airwaves, courtesy of yours truly, here on 89.5 FM KZCT Vallejo. 5-1 Keel Haulers taking on the 4-0 Oaks. Should be a great battle this Wednesday on OzCat Radio. And what else we got coming up? I think that's it coming up on the calendar. Shout out to Brian Brownfield from Menlo for a little bit longer for joining us here on the Blitz, breaking his news too. I didn't even see that one coming. That was
St.
pretty exciting.
Mary's.
Yeah. So that'll do it for this episode of the Blitz. Be sure to hit us up on Twitter at TimmyFitz76.
At BabSports, BABBSPORTS.
And follow us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/FitzBlitz. That'll do it for this episode. We'll catch you next time. Peace.